welcome to episode 53, I think, 53 of the PMD Tea Buyers Club. I did an episode 53 last week. I was halfway through it and someone called me in the middle of it, so I had to scrap it. But here we are doing episode 53 on a completely different subject, and the subject that I was doing last week I'm going to do for you later on, because Jonathan emailed in this week asking about seasonal teas, which is exactly what my previous episode was about. What have I got for you today? It's something a little different. I've been tasting and blending up a standard for the Irish market. Now the Irish are avid tea drinkers. I think it's I think it's has like the largest per capita tea drinking market in the world. Big tea drinkers. I was over in Ireland back in September. Wonderful people, really hospitable people. If you're ever thinking about going to Ireland, please do. Wonderful people, and got to understand a bit about their tea culture. Now, what we understand as tea in some parts of the world is so different. Like, for example, when I meet a lot of people from Eastern Europe, especially from Poland, and I talk to them about adding milk to their tea, which is a very common thing in Britain, common thing in a lot of the other colonial countries like Australia, New Zealand, India, Sri Lanka. We add milk to our tea. If you speak to people from Poland, they like to have their tea with a slice of lemon. And everything has lemon in it when they have their tea. The concept of putting milk is absolutely unheard of for them. So one of the things that's very unique or different about the Irish market is how they have their breakfast tea. Now, a lot of people, will know what English breakfast tea is. It's a thick, strong tea that people in England or around the world will have as a breakfast tea. We do a great breakfast tea. It's an award winner. But one thing I noticed in Ireland was that it is not thick enough for the Irish palate. The Irish like to have very thick, very coloury teas. And this is something that we identified when we were in Ireland last year. So one thing we've been doing this year is blending up an Irish breakfast. So what is an Irish breakfast traditionally containing when it looks at its teas? Well, currently Irish breakfasts on the market, and this is one of the teas that are there, they will use, and this is one of the better Irish breakfasts, I must say, they will use a large component of tea from Kenya. Kenyan teas and a lot of Assam tea is what they tend to go for. It'll give you thickness, it'll give you colour. It's a very robust tea, and if you look at the colour of this cup, which is predominantly Kenyan tea, Kenyan and sort of East African tea, you can see that brightness in the cup. You can see how thick that cup colour is as well. It's a very thick cup colour, but it's still very bright. And this is very typical of a Kenyan CTC. They have a nice brightness to it, and also if you look at the actual leaf itself, it has a nice coppery infusion, wonderful bright infusion. But in terms of the nose, it has a bit of a biscuity flavour. Very malty as well in character, Very malty and biscuity, bright infusion here. Very bright. Very nice infusion to see. And this is something you don't see with a lot of Ceylons. Now, what I've done here is we have been blending up an Irish breakfast standard to send to Ireland. And what we have done here is we've mixed a portion of CTC tea, low grown, with a little bit, we're trying to be a little bit different, and added a portion of high-grown Dimble teas, just to add a bit more flavour and a bit more character. Because sometimes what I feel with the Irish breakfast teas is that they're very thick and they have a lot of colour, but they lack flavour, and that's something very important that you should have. But we've gone for thickness, and thickness is very important because people in Ireland love to have milk. They love their milk, they love cheese. A lot of dairy goes into their products. So as a result, your tea has to be thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to taste these two teas. This is the Irish tea standard that a lot of Irish people are drinking. It's thick, really coats your palate. Very thick, very robust. This is the type of tea that's going to get you up in the morning. It's very thick. You can really feel it coating your palate. You've almost got a film across it. But in terms of flavour, that's where I feel it lacks. It has this it has this malty flavour to it. But it lacks any sort of, first, second or third note. It's very much like a big malty bruiser, and that's very much all you get with it. You're having tea, but that's it. There's no second or third note. There's nothing that you feel in the mid palate. There's nothing you feel on the finish. Having a look at the Sri Lankan tea, one thing you'll notice is that this colour This color of infusion you will not now get in Sri Lankan teas. Very rarely do you get it, you know. The soil conditions in Kenya are much younger. It's much younger soil. They've only been planting tea in Kenya since about the 60s. In fact, a lot of Sri Lankans were involved in sort of setting up the Kenyan tea trade, you know. So their soil is a lot better. Also, the type of leaf they use the type of cultivars they have are very different. So you'll notice here on the Sri Lankan one, it's a lot duller than the Kenyan. Also, in terms of nose, you get the maltiness, but you get a bit of that Vimula character, you know, sitting in this tea. So that's something interesting that you don't get in this. So two different regions of the world, both blended standards, but two very different teas. And look at the cup color. It's a lot thicker, lot thicker. That's the thickness coming from the low-grown CTC. You know, the flavor will come from your Western high-grown. But look at the difference in cup color. The Kenyan one is on my right, a lot brighter. When I say Kenyan, there is East African elements to this. And then look at the Sri Lankan one, a lot thicker. This is a lot brighter as a cup. In terms of cup color, personally, if we could attain this using Sri Lankan teas, I would personally go for this type of cup color. But using Sri Lankan tea, you're not going to be able to attain this type of cup color. But in terms of flavor, have we hit it? Have we got as close as we can get to making a good Irish breakfast? We're not looking to copy this. We're looking to better it and put our own stamp on Irish breakfast. So have we got there? Let's have a taste. The thickness is definitely there, but one thing you get from Sri Lankan CTC low grown is it carries this almost bitter element to it. Personally, I'm not a big fan of, but you have to think about what the customer wants. That's the first initial taste that you get. Mid to back palate, you start to get a bit more of that lighter flavor coming through from the Vimula component that we've added. Now we can add a bit more just to lighten this up, but I'm going to send this off to Ireland and get some feedback from the Irish themselves on what they think about this tea, if it's strong enough for them. But the key thing to do here is also to try your tea with milk. So what I'm going to do is I've got some full fat milk, no 2%, no semi-skimmed, skimmed, and I'm going to add a bit of milk to the cup. And this is important. It's important to taste tea with the milk, how your customers would taste it. And again, you know, when you add a bit of milk, I'm just adding a spoon. Maybe I might add 2 spoons because it's such a thick tea. You can see just how the tea changes. The first cup is picking up a bit of a reddish color to it, and that's that CTC component coming through. The first cup that we tasted, now that is very red in color. If I look at these two again, there's a nice, beautiful redness to this. It's very bright in color. This one is a little more murky. It will not give that reddish color. And if I pan that over, you guys can have a look at what I'm talking about. Even when you add the milk, it has a very appealing reddish color to it. So let's have a taste with the tea, with the actual milk in. That thins it out a lot more. It's a lot more palatable. You get a nice biscuity note in your actual palate. Again, lacks flavor, but still a very nice, good drinking tea there. Again, on this one, the milk actually helps it a lot. The milk helps it a lot before. It brings down the bitterness of that low-grown CTC. It doesn't coat your palate as much. You're getting a little bit more of that Western quality flavor coming through. But on the whole, I think we have a tea ready to go to Ireland. So it'll be interesting to see what the Irish think about this tea. I'm looking forward to hearing their feedback on it. If you guys have any questions, drop us an email at info@pmdt.co.uk. Follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. And if you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to message. Watch out for episode 54, Jonathan. I'm going to be dropping that later on this week. We're going to be tasting, I think, Deswood, 2 Great Westerns and a Somerset as well. And then I'm going to do a whole episode on Somerset Tea Estate because I think they're making some fantastic teas. Guys, have a great week. Happy sipping.